Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 13th annual 𝐀𝐧𝐬𝐧𝐮 General Membership Meeting. We're sorry not to be able to meet with you in person, and because of this, we have to ask all who are 𝐀𝐧𝐬𝐧 members in good standing. That means you have paid your dues or have donated more than $10 to 𝐀𝐧𝐬𝐧 over the last year, to put your name into the chat section now so that we know we have a quorum. Remember that each family member under a $10 membership has a vote. So after your name, put the number of family members in attendance. Okay, do that now. And when we ask members to vote, you can do it by using the thumbs down option. So members, please enter your names and number in attendance now. And while you're doing that, let me continue. These are difficult times for us all. At 𝐀𝐧𝐬𝐧, we're trying our best to reach out to the community in creative ways to fulfill our mission with equity and empathy. We really are all in this together, although some are harder hit than others. We understand that many are struggling financially, as well as physically and emotionally. This makes it very difficult for us to even mention supporting 𝐀𝐧𝐬𝐧 with your contribution. So we will only ask those who are in a comfortable position to help 𝐀EDS with a donation in these unprecedented times. During this session, we will have a link to our donation button. And I hope that those who can donate will do it in honor of those who cannot at this time. Now, do we have a quorum? Yes, I've heard from our friend Jack Barnett, who's counting, that we have a quorum. So now we go to our agenda. We hope we have about 30 minutes of business, and then we go to the presentation by Judy Wicks. So our first order of business is to vote to approve the minutes from the 2019 annual meeting. This link was sent to you in the last newsletter. So first, are there any questions or concerns about the minutes? And if so, type them into the comment section. And we'll wait just a minute to see if anything comes up. Okay, nothing. So let's have a vote to approve the minutes from 2019. Okay, do we have a vote? Yes? Okay, the minutes have been approved. Thank you very much. Now we go to our Treasury report. Now, I'm the one speaking most of the time on this meeting because we can't have that many people talking, so I'm going to stand in for our present treasurer, Elena Probst. First, I want to say many thanks to Denise Boussière for her many years serving as treasurer. We appointed Elena Probst as our new treasurer in 2020. The total annual budget for 2020 was estimated to be $38,100. But the budget has taken a hit due to the cancellation of our major fundraisers because of the pandemic. We've been able to supplement some of the loss from federal and local COVID-related economic recovery funds. Our two major fundraising efforts are the end-of-year campaign and the Swapapalooza. The 2019 year-end campaign yielded approximately $17,200, which is on par with our previous years. The Swapapalooza event, which averages $4,000 a year, was canceled due to the pandemic. An anonymous donor gave us $500 to help pay for our new website. Grants this year included $3,542 from the Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program, which paid for our executive director's salary and rent for April and May. We had a $2,500 sustaining grant from PPL. We had a grant for $2,500 from the Grimm Foundation, and our food circle has just been awarded a $1,500 grant through the Greater Pike County Community Foundation to create a weekly podcast and radio program, and there's more on that later. Our largest expense is executive director salary at $20,000. The bank balance as of 9/02/20 was $45,195.07. And now we're going to go on to another vote to approve some bylaws changes, and I'm going to turn it over now to Jack Barnett. Is your volume up, Jack? Oh. Okay, I'll go ahead. All right, we did some proposed changes. For me? Okay. We can't seem to get a mic for Jack, so I will do this. The updated mission statement, as approved in 2019, I'm listing now the summary of what we're going to change in the bylaws. The new bylaws sets membership meeting quorum at 20 people instead of 3% of membership. It combines recording and corresponding secretaries into a single officer, and it changes the selection process and role of circle representatives and defines how they become a board member. All board positions are now to be limited to 3 consecutive 2-year terms. It clarifies the process for removing a board member, and there are various legal language updates, including virtual meetings, no inurements article, and other changes consistent with nonprofit status. And then there are a few wording improvements, formatting, and numbering. So we did send you the link to this in our last newsletter. So we hope you had a chance to check them out. Check it out. And so now we're going to have a vote on this. But first, are there any questions or concerns? Please type them into the comments. I don't see anything coming up. So, would you please give a thumbs up, members, for the changes to the bylaws? Well, I said yes, but I didn't vote on the comments. Okay, the changes to the bylaws have been approved. Thank you very much. And now we have the election of officers and board members. And here are the people who are on the slate for this year. 3 of us are veterans, Kathy, me, Sue Currier, and Jane Bollinger, and we have 1 new board member, Charles San Clemente, otherwise known as Chuck. And so I'm going to just give you a quick rundown on Charles, so you know a little bit about him before we vote. He and his wife moved to our area in 2009. He became a stay-at-home dad after the birth of their daughter, Rosa, and their second daughter, Gina, and son, Luca, who continue to keep him busy. Chuck studied at Pratt Institute and William Patterson University. He's a former conservation assistant for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. His professional experiences include managing fine art galleries in Soho and Midtown Manhattan, running an independent fine arts installation and logistics business, and instructor at New York University Graduate School Department of Art and Art Professionals. He also co-founded a not-for-profit online fine arts reference library. With a master's degree in fine art, Chuck is accomplished in woodworking, design, and construction, and brings a lot of handy know-how to the table. He first learned about seeds while organizing a grassroots information campaign to stop a gas pipeline that would have extracted 4 million gallons of lake water in Pike County. He has avidly followed seeds ever since. He said, "I'm honored and excited to be more directly involved with these environmentally indispensable issues." So that's a little about him. So now we move to the next slide, which is our slate. And I have to ask, are there any nominations from our members? If so, please put the nomination name in the comment section and the position that you're nominating that person for. Okay, I don't think we see any action, right? Okay, we have no other nominations. I would like us to vote on all 4 of these positions now, all together. So give your thumbs up, please, now. Okay, we have 2 votes so far. That's not enough. So please. No, we need 20 now. We need 20 votes. Add me to that. Seven more, please. Need 6 more. We need 5 more. Okay, come on, people. I know my children are on this, watching this, so I'm wondering why they're not voting. 2, 1. We need 1 more vote, people. Got it? Okay, thank you, everyone. All right, we'll move on quickly. Now we're going to have circle reports, and of course, circles are what we use instead of committee. So these are sort of our committee reports. You will note that on the slides, there is a list of the members of the circle, and one is underlined. The person who's underlined is the leader of the circle. The governance circle made significant progress this year in strengthening the governance framework for the organization and addressing strategic plan items. Accomplishments included managing the hiring process for our new executive director, Olga Trushina, whom you will meet shortly, managing the process of creating a slate of candidates for this year's annual elections, which we just did, end-to-end review and update of 𝐀𝐧𝐧𝐮𝐚𝐥 bylaws, which we just voted on, implemented 𝐀𝐧𝐧's sensitive topics policy in response to a request for 𝐀𝐧𝐧 to define the organization's position on climate change, which has been completed, created a detailed document that defines the responsibility of the 𝐀𝐧𝐧 executive director. The outreach circle. 𝐷𝐞𝐬𝐢𝐥 is our new outreach circle leader, and with the help of her team has hit the ground running. There were 4 circle meetings in 2020. Newsletters go out the first of every month, and a new newsletter system was implemented this month. 4 times a year, we will have a full newsletter, January, April, July, and October. There will be a postcard version other months. Our social media includes Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for posts, events, and stories. Current projects. There's a social media calendar now scheduling posts for 2020-21. This will keep us much more organized. Standardized flyer and newsletter postcard design, which will help more than one person pull things together so that we have this template. If you have any questions or comments, please contact 𝐷𝐞𝐬𝐢𝐥. Next, the food circle. 𝐀𝐧𝐧 has just received a grant. This means like yesterday, from the Greater Pike Community Foundation to create a pilot series of 26 weekly 15-minute podcasts titled The Main Ingredient, Bringing Farm Food to Your Table, designed to address the current gap in consumers' knowledge about purchasing and preparing local and regional farm-raised food. The podcasts will also air on 2 of Bold Gold Media Group's Pocono Lake Region radio stations. That's WDNH and Classic Hits 105. So that's pretty exciting. The energy circle, although we've had to pull back from close interaction with each other and the public, we were able, through careful social distancing, to give energy efficiency advice to several homeowners, provide 5 solar assessments to homeowners with 3 pending, and 5 assessments to farms or other businesses, plus 2 nonprofits. A 𝐀𝐧𝐧 volunteer team provided consulting, engineering, and labor to a Highlights Foundation 33.3 kilowatt solar install using 90 reused 370-watt panels. Olga, our executive director, created a video of the operation. We are in the process of launching an energy blog, and we're excited about the Habitat for Humanity Passive House, which is proceeding in Wayne County. That has been a long-time dream of 𝐀𝐧𝐧 to have that happen. Education. This newly formed circle includes some key initiatives in our community. Jocelyn Kramer represents the NEPA Recycles website. Sandy Long spearheads the 𝐀𝐧𝐧 Reads program, and Jenna Wayne Mauder orchestrates the annual free book swap. In partnership with Daisy Troop 50266 and the Cooperage Project, 𝐀𝐧𝐧 Reads installed its first little free library accessible through the Cooperage's Pocket Park. 2 more locations are being explored. The 2019 free book swap reused and recycled about 20,000 books. The event received an Environmental Partnership Award from the Pennsylvania Environmental Council. This outstanding achievement is all thanks to the many sponsors and volunteers who have shaped and delivered the free book swap to the Northern Pocono region for the past 9 years. Now, the 10th annual event, which was to be held in November 2020, has been postponed until the spring of 2021 so that we could hold it as an outdoor venue. Please stay tuned for more details on that. And our last circle is finance, last but not least. It works to grow and maintain the financial well-being of 𝐀𝐧𝐶. We provided much of the finance information in the Treasury report, so I won't repeat it. The circle meets monthly. Sue Currier meets weekly with our executive director to discuss fundraising work. Thank you, Sue. We welcome volunteers to the finance circle, especially those with QuickBooks knowledge and those who are interested in helping to grow 𝐀𝐧𝐶. And now I have the privilege of introducing Olga Trushina. She stepped into the role of executive director in February of 2020. And as I mentioned earlier, all of us have had to adjust to the pandemic, learning new skills and technologies. Olga had only been our new ED for about a month when she had to deal with this new reality. Thank you, Olga, for your proactive and your creative response to this challenge. And now I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kathy. I hope you guys hear me well. Jack? Okay, good. 1 second, let me get my slides in. All right, so I'm just gonna go quickly so we will get to Judy Wicks as soon as possible. Just talk about how we've survived the pandemic, what we're trying to do to adjust our organization to make sure that people still see us and are engaged, and also the people, organizations, and businesses that are helping us. So in these unusual times, I'm very grateful that we are able to connect virtually to further the 𝐀𝐧𝐶 mission in our community. The well-being of our volunteers, the board, and community members has been our top priority, and I'm so proud of what 𝐀𝐧𝐶 was able to accomplish this turbulent year. Our circle leaders quickly adapted to the virtual world by learning and utilizing streaming and editing tools available to a small nonprofit like 𝐀𝐧𝐶. Right at the start of the pandemic, 𝐀𝐧𝐶 donated volunteer time to make masks and used our social media power to find more volunteers and supplies, helping the movement satisfy all mask requests. We also created a community spreadsheet with resources available in our community locally for families in need. And to be able to offer 𝐀𝐧𝐶 programming at a distance, we began recording and sharing our tours, forums, and events on social media. And to support the local economy, our most recent small initiative, and to encourage local shopping, we began giving away gift cards from local businesses that are either donated or are purchased with funds that are donated to us via online giveaways. So we're trying to get people involved in supporting the local economy. Basically what Judy Wicks is going to talk about today, the theme of her presentation. And since the start of the pandemic, 𝐀𝐧𝐶 videos have been watched more than 4,000 times, and we've gained more than 450 new followers on all of our social media accounts. Now, this is a big deal because the more people we reach, the more impact we can have on the choices they make in their lives. So as today's realities push more people to connect virtually, there are more opportunities for 𝐀𝐧𝐶 to teach, engage, and inspire, and we are looking forward to this in the next year. So let me just show you something. Sorry, I can't find it right now, but we'll move on to it. Maybe I'll get to it later. So while it is important to prioritize initiatives aimed at preventing more immediate human impacts of the pandemic, as our community moves towards recovery slowly, sustainability and resilience remains our most powerful insurance policy in preventing future impacts of social and environmental and economic crises. And so our main focus right now is being able to do more work that looks professional, that encourages engagement and motivates people towards sustainability applications at home and at work. So I would like to mention some of the people, organizations, businesses that are supporting us. So although it's difficult to find foundations that serve our specific mission, we've been lucky to have received grants from PPL, which continues to support SEEDS through its sustaining grants every year. From the Grimm Foundation, which provided us with a grant to revamp our website, and this project is currently in process and should be completed by the end of the year. And from Overlook Foundation, which provided funding for our new SEEDS Reads program and continues to communicate with us on other opportunities. We are also applying to a number of grants that will help us reach more people in our community for a maximum positive impact. But really, the heart of our organization is the individuals and businesses in our communities who are working with us and furthering our collective mission with their time, creativity, and funding. And I'll show you some of them, and I'll thank them. So although so far SEEDS has been able to do great things with a small number of people and limited resources, there comes a time when moving to the next level and inspiring more community members means better organization, professional help, and more access to resources. And since I've joined SEEDS, we've worked with businesses that have a similar mission and that are supportive of what we're doing. Some of them, I'll mention some of them. So one is, I just recently learned trouble connecting. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, I'll continue just a few more minutes. So Luke Turano from Turano Insurance, he's a sustainability enthusiast and he continues to support SEEDS through underwriting and sponsorships of events like this. Also, the Honesdale National Bank that has been key in SEEDS receiving government support in the first few months of the pandemic. And finally, we have some businesses in the community who might donate smaller amounts, but are still so supportive in everything we do in terms of whenever I contact somebody, I always feel like we have this tight-knit community where I can just speak to someone about, getting advice and getting information, connecting people together. So those businesses include the Dime Bank, Pocono Mountains Visitors Bureau, Wayne Economic Development Corp, Hamlin Dental Center, REMAXWayne, and Clear Cut Consulting, which is actually an energy consulting company from Texas who somehow found us and decided that they wanted to support our mission here in NEPA. All of these businesses are underwriting SEEDS programming this year. So please take the time to learn about all the SEEDS business supporters that not only deserve recognition, but also gratitude for their support in these unpredictable times. And lastly, I'm just going to mention that I started my position as the executive director at the end of February, and a few weeks in, the pandemic happened. In that short month of actual face-to-face conversations, I love meeting people in our community who are vocal about pushing NEPA to resilience and who have supported SEEDS in spearheading this mission. Thank you so much for trusting us to accomplish it. I'm looking forward to the time, sometime in the future, hopefully, when we could meet again and discuss ways NEPA can have a sustainable present, not tomorrow, present. So if you would like to make a donation, please follow the link in the comments. I'll post it again just in case it gets lost. And just remember, we can do this together as a community, one step at a time. Thank you very much.
We are now going to
Nope.
close our general meeting if there is no other business. So if anybody has anything to say to finish up our business meeting, let me know right now. I understand that some people are having a hard time if they're on YouTube to vote. I'm sorry, I can't tell you how to do it, but all right, so I guess I don't see anything else happening here, so I am now going to close the general meeting, and I'm going to turn it back over to Jack Barnett, who will introduce Judy Wicks. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. Excellent. So I'd like to introduce Judy to everyone. Judy is probably best known for her founding farm-to-table cafe in Philadelphia called the White Dog Cafe, one of the earliest farm-to-table restaurants in our area, although I know our local support from the Settlers Inn is formed about the same time. But Judy's since retired from the cafe, but is focusing on so many other missions, including her most current, newest initiative called All Together Now Pennsylvania, which is really working to unite urban and rural communities. And 𝐀𝐧𝐧 is proud to be a member and promotional member of supporting that mission. In addition, Judy runs a Circle of Aunts and Uncles, which is based in Philadelphia and is a revolving loan program to help local entrepreneurs without the traditional access to capital. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to have a big announcement after the end of this, Judy's presentation, about a similar circle. And then, of course, Judy is also well known as the co-founder of the National Business Alliance for Local Living Economies, now called Common Future. Again, similar theme of things. And if you haven't read her book, I highly recommend Good Morning, Beautiful Business. It's really about business leadership and thinking small while thinking large. She's also won numerous awards in both the restaurateur, chef, and humanitarian and social justice domain. So I really want to welcome Judy. We really appreciate the connection, and thank you so much. We wish we could do this in person, but we're so glad to have you here virtually. Take it away, Judy. That's for after.
It's been interesting to be part of your meeting tonight. I feel like I know a lot about 𝐀𝐧𝐧 now, and I admire what you are all doing. Yeah, sure. So tonight I want to tell you a little of my story and how my consciousness evolved to be working on building resilient regional economies. Let's see if we can get this to work here. I'm going to share my screen. And then I'm going to, let's see here. Where's my PowerPoint? Let's see. Oh, wait a minute now. Hold on. I have to first do that. Let's see. Share. Into application. Do I share the entire screen or the application window?
No, Judy, try the application window because it will run faster like that.
Okay. Okay, application window, share.
Okay, I see it. I see it. It's working.
Okay, there.
All right, I'm removing myself. Go ahead, take it away.
Okay. All right. So I'm just learning this technology, so bear with me here. So this is my presentation, Resilient Regional Economies Are the Future. So I'm going to begin with my former restaurant, the White Dog Cafe in Philadelphia, where we combined food, fun, and social activism. There are 3 lessons that I learned that were most important to me at the White Dog Cafe that I'm going to share with you now. Reimagining growth, protecting what you love, and moving from me to we. So reimagining growth. In the business world, you often hear the mantra of grow or die, that you have to keep growing your business bigger and bigger if you're going to survive. But I could see that these chain stores were sweeping across the country. And even though I had opportunities to start a White Dog Cafe in New York and Washington, D.C., I decided that that was not for me, because I realized that I wouldn't have the authenticity of the relationships that I enjoyed so much. What really made me happy about being in business was my relationships with my customers, with my employees, with my community, with my suppliers. And that if I were to have multiple units, as they call it, that I would lose my happiness, basically. So instead of starting a White Dog in someone else's community, I decided to start a Black Hat in my own, next door to the White Dog, which was a store selling local crafts and fair trade crafts from various countries. And it was something that my community needed. So I also realized that we don't have to grow materially, that we can reimagine growth by increasing our knowledge, by expanding our consciousness, by deepening our relationships, by developing creativity, by building community, and by having more fun. So at the White Dog, we did all of these things. For instance, we would have table talks with speakers on issues of public concern to increase our knowledge and to build community. We took our customers on tours. This was a tour of a community garden. And we also had tours of solar installations and wall murals and arts organizations and so on. And we had a lot of fun. This was the pajama party brunch on New Year's Day, where people came to brunch wearing their pajamas. And this was a family that came every year wearing flannel pajamas that the grandmother made for everybody. So we had a lot of fun. So I began to see that chain stores were like invasive species. They go into other people's communities and smother out the indigenous businesses. So that got me thinking that we do need to grow in some way. And so how does nature grow? Well, nature grows deeper in place. Nature grows deeper in place to become more diverse, more creative, more resilient, and more adaptive to the needs of the ecosystem. And this is just how we can grow our businesses, to grow deeper in place, to respond to the needs of our community, rather than to spread ourselves into other communities. So one of my favorite examples of this is the Zingerman's family of businesses in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Zingerman's Delicatessen was a very famous place, and they could have easily done a chain of Zingerman's. But instead of doing that, they started a bakery, and then a creamery, and a coffee roasting company, and 8 more businesses with total sales of $65 million. And it's probably more than that at this point, because this was a few years back. And in this way, they reduced imports into their communities by producing their own products and keeping that money within their community. They increased local self-reliance by producing basic needs locally instead of having to import them. And they spread ownership more broadly because they made their employees owners in each of the new businesses. Protecting what you love. This story actually starts here in the Poconos. I have a summer cabin where I speak to you from right now. I've been hiding from the pandemic up here in the woods, but it's a favorite place of mine. I've been coming here for 23 years, not all that far away from the Honesdale area. And I love this area of our state. And one summer I came up here, I think it was around 1999 or 2000, and there was a terrible drought and I could see how the leaves were beginning to fall off the trees, even though it was just August. The ferns on Fern Hill that usually were waving in the breeze, all green and lush, were crumpled on the ground like brown tissue paper. And as I walked through the forest, there was just an eerie silence. Not even the birds were singing, just the crackling of the sticks and leaves. And the creek was all dried up, just dust on the rocks. And there was just an eerie feeling of a fear, the fear of fire. And I finally just got it. I thought to myself, this is what's going to happen. That parts of the world are going to have droughts and fires, and other parts are going to have storms and floods. And this was 20 years ago. And as we know, that's exactly what did happen. So I became a tree hugger. I just went over to a big tree, a big oak tree, and I hugged the tree and pressed my face against the bark and promised I would go back to Philadelphia and figure out how to sign up for renewable energy. I knew that about climate change, and we had even been having educational programs at the White Dog about climate change, but yet I hadn't been moved to action until I was moved by my love for this place in the world, in the woods. So we signed up for renewable energy, and eventually were able to buy enough renewable energy that we could buy 100% of our electricity from renewable sources. And we were the first business in our state to do so. So the third story is moving from me to we. And that begins with this story from one of the farmers that the White Dog sourced from, Mark Dornstrike from Branch Creek Farm, once told me that good farming is the balance of feminine energy and masculine energy, which he described as being the feminine nurturing energy and the masculine efficiency. He explained that if you have too much masculine energy, you may have a well-run farm, but you're not going to have great tomatoes. On the other hand, if you have too much feminine energy and not enough masculine, you might have delicious tomatoes and happy chickens, but you're going to go out of business because you're not using your time in an efficient way, which is very important in farming. So that got me thinking about how our economy, especially our agricultural industry, is out of balance. That the name of the game in industrial farming is, for instance, with the factory farming of eggs, is how little space and food and water and light can you give a hen so that you can get the very cheapest egg possible. Absolutely no nurturing in this system, a total imbalance of masculine and feminine energies. And here, of course, we're not talking about gender. We're talking about the energies that are in each of us, male and female. So the White Dog switched to finding sources for all pastured chicken, for our eggs, and for our meat. Then I heard about the plight of the pigs, which was even more horrifying to me because pigs are mammals, like our dogs, like us. They, like all mammals, feel the same emotions of fear and joy and sadness and guilt. All these things that you can see on your dog's faces when your dog steals a little piece of sausage from the coffee table. He gets that little guilty look. All these emotions are common with mammals, and here we keep these mother pigs in these cages where they can't even take a step forward or backward. They're artificially inseminated. The babies are taken away prematurely, and this is repeated over and over again as though they were pieces of equipment in a factory. So when I heard this, I was appalled because I realized that the meat I was serving in my own restaurant was coming from the system. So I came into the kitchen and said, take all the pork off the menu, the ham, the bacon, the pork chops, until we can find a source for humanely raised pastured pork. And here's a picture of one of our farms out in Lancaster County that raises pigs in a natural way out on pasture. And the pigs can sleep in pig piles like they enjoy, and roll in the mud and that being out in the fresh air and being in their social groups. Then I found out about the plight of the cow, of the steer. Here's a meat feedlot for beef out in the west. So we transitioned to all grass-fed beef. This is Dr. Bill Elkins from Buck Run Farm, and he actually had never. He always finished his beef on grains at the end, but we asked if he could have 100% grass-fed animal, and so he did that for us. And Patti LaBelle, the famous singer, would come into the White Dog to get a Buck Run a beef burger, a free-range grass-fed beef burger, because she knew that it was more nutritious and healthy for her. The dairy business, another horrendous one. The industrial milking of cows is just so horrible, because the babies, they have to be pregnant, have gotten pregnant in order to produce milk. So they're artificially inseminated, like the pigs are. And then the babies are taken away immediately on birth, never get to drink their mother's milk, so that we humans drink what was meant by nature for these young babies. And the calves are separated. The boys are kept in these horrible cages where they can't move, so that they'll produce very white colored flesh that's anemic, that was made popular in certain restaurants. And the alternative, this is a picture of Hawthorne Valley Farm in the Hudson Valley, where they leave the babies with their mothers for the first 7 or 8 months. And by the way, Hawthorne Valley yogurt is available nearby at Earthlight Natural Foods in Stroudsburg. I'm sure it's available in other places as well, but that's where I get my yogurt. I won't eat any other dairy products. So I shouldn't say any. Once in a while I get ice cream somewhere, but only from grass-fed cows at least. But it really means a lot to me that the babies are left with their mothers at Hudson Valley, because it's so unusual, and the opposite is so cruel. So I got to the point where, and this is, by the way, Dougie. She was one of our suppliers of goat cheese, and she would always say that when she kissed her goat's ears, it would make the cheese better. And I think that's true. Here she is with her goat. That looks like a pretty nice ear to kiss. So anyway, I was looking at my menu and thinking, gee, we finally done it. We have a cruelty-free menu. All of our, unless you're a vegan, but all of our meat and animal products come from small family farms where the animals are raised with kindness and respect. And this is going to be our market niche, our competitive advantage. This is all about us. And then I had a transformational moment where I realized that if I really cared about the pigs and the cows and all the farm animals, if I really cared about the small farmers that were being driven out of business by the factory farms, the CAFOs as they call them, if I cared about the environment that was being polluted by the concentration of manure in these factory farms that goes on to pollute the water and the air, in the rural communities, if I cared about the workers in these horrible slaughterhouses and factories, and if I cared about the consumer who's unknowingly eating meat that's full of antibiotics and hormones, then rather than keeping my supply list to myself, that I would share it with my competitors. And that was a realization on my part that there is no such thing as one sustainable business. We can only be part of a sustainable system, and that we need to work towards that. Up until that point, I thought that my goal was to have sustainable practices within my business. And I took great pride in, putting solar on the roof and starting a compost system and all the many practices, paying a living wage, buying from local farmers, and so on. But then I realized that wasn't enough, that I had to turn my attention in part away from my own business to look at the greater system in which we operated, our local food system, and to work with my competitors to build a stronger local food system. So the first thing I did was to start Fair Food, a nonprofit that would link the farmers, the family farmers, to the urban marketplace. And we, for many years, published a food guide. Fair Food existed for 20 years. I started in the year, 19 years actually. It just it closed down last year, but I feel as though its mission had been accomplished, which was to educate chefs about how to buy from local farmers. Then I also, at the same time, turned to the farmer who was bringing us 2 pigs at the time. We would use 2 whole pigs a week, and the chef would find uses for all of the meat, because that's a better way, more respectful way to buy meat, and much better for the farmer to sell the whole animal than, you know, just the popular pieces like the loin and the bacon and ham. So we would buy two pigs a week from Farmer Glenn. And so I asked him if he wanted to expand his business, and he said yes. And I said, well, what's holding you back? And he said he needed $30,000 to buy a refrigerated truck so that he could deliver to more restaurants than just ours, because it would take all day to get around. So I loaned him the $30,000, and he bought this truck so that he could basically deliver to my competitors. And of course, he has paid that loan back many years ago. So I feel in this moment that I moved from me to we. I moved from an individualistic outlook to one of community, to actually see the whole system, the community in which I lived. I moved from competition to cooperation. I moved from hoarding my information and my resources to sharing. And I moved from fear of not having enough for myself to love. So just the background on this, I've sometimes wondered how I was able to make that decision to share with my competitors, because it's so against the principles, the normal, principles and practices of business. And I think it stemmed from a year I spent living in an Eskimo village in 1969. I was a Vista volunteer in Chefornik, Alaska, a little Eskimo town up near the mouth of the Kuskokwim River. And here I am, and I guess I was 22 at the time in 1969. I just graduated from college, and that's my puppy that I'm wearing my Eskimo dress called oh my God, I can't remember the name. The boots are called mucklucks, and an Eskimo woman made me my mucklucks. Kuzpik is the dress. My mother sent me the fabric, and an Eskimo woman made it for me. But anyway, I don't have to go over my wardrobe here. But I learned so much up here. I witnessed a community that was based on sharing, and they had no understanding of hoarding. This was not a concept that they understood. If you admired something that an Eskimo has, they give it to you. So you have to watch what you admire. They believe that we all live in community, and they understand how we need to support each other to survive. So this was really modeled through what was called a seal party. One morning in the spring, I heard a knock on my door, and I opened it to see an Eskimo woman beckoning me to follow her, and found out that what was happening was a seal party. That when a man caught his first seal of the spring, his wife had a seal party and invited all the women of the village to their home, where the seal meat was divided between all the families. And then at the end of the party, the host threw candy and bubble gum up into the air, which is what's happening in this photo, and all the women would catch it. And I was right out there hoping for a root beer barrel or a fireball. It wasn't a whole lot to do up there, so it was very exciting. But this was symbolic in a sense of their willingness to distribute whatever they've collected during the year. In the spring, what they don't need to survive, they share with others. So the indigenous way of being that I saw with the Eskimos, and I think most indigenous people, was one of reciprocity. that you never take more than you give. That giving and receiving is a flow of nature, and that human beings, in order to survive, need to be in that same flow of giving and receiving, never taking more than your share, or more than you're able to give back. And the Eskimos were the happiest people I've ever met. They were always joking and laughing. And I realized that their security was not based on money, which they had little or none. Their security was based on community, on a sense of community. Something that many people in contemporary society lack, sadly. So I continued to learn from Indigenous people. When I think back on it, I think some of the major lessons I've learned in my life have been taught to me by Indigenous people. These are the Zapatistas of Chiapas, Mexico, and when they had their revolution on New Year's Day, 1994, I went down to Mexico to find out what it was all about. And it was on the day that NAFTA went into effect, and what they were revolting about was that they did not want to become part of the global economy. That when NAFTA happened, that the United States was able to dump cheap corn subsidized by our government into Mexico, putting out of business the indigenous farmers and forcing them off the farm and into factories. So the Zapatistas were saying no más, no more, that they were not going to give up what they prized, which was local self-reliance, something that I had never thought about before. They wanted to maintain their self-reliance in food, in their customs, to make the clothing that they have worn for hundreds, if not thousands of years, to maintain their culture, their values, their language, and not become part of the global monoculture of Western values, and end up working in the maquiladoras, manufacturing clothing to be sent to the United States and Europe. And I saw that the plight of the farmer in Chiapas, who I thought I was going there to help, was also the plight of the farmers back home in Pennsylvania. That in both cases, they were losing ground to corporate globalization. And in fact, around the world, communities were losing our self-reliance and becoming dependent on large multinational corporations to deliver us our food through long-distance shipping, rather than being self-reliant in our food. We also lost self-reliance in every other basic need, whether it was energy, clothing, building materials, and so on. And so I began to imagine a different type of global economy, a global economy that was a network of sustainable local economies, where basic needs are produced close to home: food, shelter, clothing, building materials, energy, and that we then trade in what is unique to our community, be it a special wine or cheese or a special fashion, an innovation or whatever, but that what we need to survive is produced at home. So with this in mind, I started BALLE, the Business Alliance for Local Living Economies that Jack mentioned earlier. And I also started our local Sustainable Business Network of Greater Philadelphia, which became one of the first members of the BALLE Alliance. I wrote a book about my life up until that point called Good Morning, Beautiful Business, and which really tells the story of what I'm telling you now, and in much more detail and many more stories. And I went on a book tour for a number of years, and then came back to Philadelphia. And in 2016, I again was inspired by Indigenous people when I went to Standing Rock. I went to Standing Rock to support their courageous stand against a pipeline that was headed towards the Missouri River and the land of their ancestors that they were protecting. And I just love this photograph. I actually love this photograph so much that I bought a very large print of this from the photographer and have it hanging in my living room, because it just shows the the essence of what this battle is about, you know, of the Lakota Sioux Native people in their humble existence, standing up to the might of the fossil fuel industry and the military that supports the fossil fuel industries and the large corporations that rule our economy. And it was, I could have a whole talk just on my experience at Standing Rock. It was incredible to be a part of that. I went there to cook Thanksgiving dinner for the water protectors. I started off intending to cook 200 dinners, and I ended up cooking 2,000 because we combined with resources with some people out there who said that if our group of 30 had 30 people coming from around the United States to help cook the dinner. And so this other group we combined with included women from the high school, the Standing Rock High School. So we used their kitchen to make the dinner and served it in the gymnasium. But anyway, again, a whole nother story, but let me move on here. While I was at Standing Rock, I heard the prophecy of the black snake. It's a 1,000-year-old Lakota Sioux prophecy that said that one day a black snake would rise up out of the earth and move across the land, causing great sorrow and hardship. And that now, after 1,000 years, they realize that the black snake is the fossil fuel industry, the pipelines that snake across the land. And the prophecy goes on to say that if the people of the world do not unite to defeat the black snake, that the world will end. And that's where we are right now. That's what's going on right now with the fires in California and the floods and storms in the South, that if we don't defeat the black snake of fossil fuel, we'll be destroyed. The world will end. So when we left, the elders told us, go home to your home places and find the black snake and help to kill the black snake. So when I got back to Pennsylvania, I realized that the black snake here is the fracking industry. So I went up to 𝐷𝐞𝐻, PA on a tour of where they're extracting the natural gas, the frack gas. And this was a sample of the water that had been polluted by the fracking chemicals. I learned about this, then I learned about, so I went back to my house. I realized that I did not want to be part of this horrendous system by using natural gas. So I converted my house to all electric. I put solar on my roof, and I switched out all my appliances to be electric. This is a induction stovetop. It works by electricity, but it's much more, you have much more control than a normal electric stove. It has as much or more control than a gas stove. It has all these, you can see on the dial here, all those little dots are a different degree of heat. And it works by having these magnets go around underneath the glass, which causes the iron ore in pots and pans to move around and heat up so that the pan heats, but the air does not heat. There's no flame going into the air. And so it's a very efficient, it's the most efficient way to cook. So anyway, once I got all electric appliances, I called up the gas company and said, turn off my gas. I'm never using gas again. So then I got an electric car in Philadelphia. I live in a row house and don't have a place to put a charger. So I run an extension cord out my window, that balcony up there behind the tree. It swings down across the sidewalk into the tree and then down in to plug into my car. So up here in the Poconos, I have an outdoor spot to park my car where I can just plug it right in. So much easier than in the city. It's a real struggle because I can't always get this parking place. And if I don't get the parking place, then I have to go to a supercharger, and there's only one in Philadelphia. And I have to go down there and sit in my car for an hour, while it charges. Anyway, I'm happy to do it because I live a no carbon house. My house and my car burn no carbons, and I try not to fly. Of course, now we can't fly anyway, or we shouldn't be with the pandemic. But I wanted to do that. I wanted to see if it was possible. I wanted to model, as I did at the White Dog. I tried to model, when I heard about a new sustainable practice, I tried to model that to see what would happen and to prove it could be done. And it turned out that even though natural gas is much cheaper than electric heat, for instance, by adding the solar on my roof, I was able to compensate for that. So the net effect was financially was that I actually was ahead of the game, that the solar on my roof saved me more than the money. That was the difference in cost between natural gas and electricity. So it turned out that I would have enough savings from the solar gave me to pay off if I had borrowed money to put in on my solar. It would take me 8 years to be debt free, and so it's a good investment. That's the thing I don't understand. I can't tell you the whole story, but around that time, once I did that, I joined with a solar installation company to start a program called Solarize Center City, Philadelphia, to try and get my friends and neighbors to do the same thing. So we used me as a model to try and do others. And now that's been expanded to Solarize Philadelphia. I forget how many homes now that they've solarized, something like 300 or 400, with the benefit of doing this together to lower the cost of ordering the panels. So then I started hearing about how the frack gas was coming right through the neighborhoods in the suburbs. Can you believe these highly explosive gas pipelines going this close to a home, that close to schools, senior residences, and so on? And this there's both liquid gas and gas, and going right by these homes, and they're so flammable that if there's a leak, you can't start a car engine for fear of blowing it up. So they just tell you to start running in the, running away on foot. And can you imagine that, with a senior center or whatever? It's just insane what's going on. So I was incensed by this, and I joined a group in Lancaster that was fighting the oil pipeline that coming through Lancaster County, where my ancestors settled back in the early 1700s. And so we shut down this gas rig that they were drilling to put in the pipeline. And so we shut down the rig. We chained ourselves to this rig. We're called the Drill Rig 5 is our nickname. So we were taken off. And so this experience made me realize how many people are fighting so hard to protect their land. And yet the politicians are paying no mind. The politicians in the state, for the most part, are siding with the fossil fuel industry. So then I decided to turn my attention to politics, that we needed to change state politics in order to stop fracking and to move towards renewable energy. So I started a nonprofit called Proud Pennsylvania with that purpose, to support and raise money for candidates who promised to and took a pledge not to take money from the fossil fuel industry and to move towards banning fracking and policies to move us quickly towards renewable energy. So, I realized that the fossil fuels have such an incredible legacy in Pennsylvania, with starting with coal. And then, of course, as we know, oil drilling was discovered in Pennsylvania. For 50 years, we were the oil capital of the world until it was discovered in Texas. This is in Titusville, PA. And now, it's fracking that has so much power. So the fossil fuel industry has really unduly influenced our state legislature for hundreds of years. So we were successful in helping to elect 6 representatives and 2 senators. Among them are Elizabeth Fiedler from Philadelphia, Summer Lee from Allegheny County, Danielle Friedalton from Chester County, all legislators, and these are senators, Tim Kearney from Delaware County and Katie Muth from Montgomery County. So we're just gearing up. This year, we're going to be announcing our endorsements for 2020. We were involved with the primaries to try and, because not all, it's not just about turning our state blue. There are plenty of Democrats who are influenced by the fossil fuel industry. A friend of mine who was Leanne Kruger, who we also was on our endorsement slate. She was running for re-election last time, and just ran again. And she said that when she went to her office right after she was elected, the first day in her office, that the fossil fuel lobbyists were in her office offering her money, just blatantly, on day one when she was sworn in. So, and she's a Democrat, so it's not about party. There's Democrats and Republicans that are being bribed basically by the fossil fuel industry. So it's very important. The primaries are also very important to make sure that the right Democrat is elected. I then decided that my nature is not to be against something, against fossil fuel companies or whatever. My nature is to be for something. So I wanted to apply myself to building the alternative, which are resilient regional economies. So at All Together Now Pennsylvania, I got this name, from the Lakotas, saying that if the world didn't come together to defeat the black snake, the world will end. So I realized that coming together is so important, no matter what we want to do, and that we're never going to be successful in saving our planet or our communities if we don't join together in doing this. So we're working to unite urban and rural communities to build regional economies that work for all of us. And it's tragic how rural and urban communities are at each other's throats so often, with misunderstanding and anger, and of course that's being amplified by the national politics. It doesn't have to be that way. It wasn't long ago when urban and rural communities were connected by local supply chains, that there was a basic trust and understanding between rural and urban communities, because their survival depended on their interconnectedness. These local supply chains were then destroyed by corporate globalization. That's what ended the rural urban alliance and the supply chains that connected them. And when you look at where the despair is in our state, the opioid epidemic, for instance, it's in the rural areas where the farm countries have never recovered from the imports being dumped in, and same with the manufacturing communities. In Philadelphia, the working class communities is where we have the opioid epidemic. So communities have never recovered from corporate globalization. So our work at All Together Now is to build back those local supply chains in a not as they used to be, but in the modern day way, using the tools that are available to us that weren't available in the olden days, such as technology, and with new products as well. So when we produce our basic needs locally, we're moving power, wealth, and opportunity from these faraway corporations to our own communities. And there's urgency that climate change is making these long distance supply chains unreliable, that they are going to fail, that chaotic weather and social upheaval and pandemics, we saw how they failed during the pandemic, are going to destroy these long distance supply chains, and that we need to build local ones if we're going to survive climate change. So regional self-reliance and basic needs, food, fuel, and fiber, I feel is the common ground of the left and the right, of Republicans and Democrats. That this fighting is so short-sighted that we need to come together to build local self-reliance in order to survive and to help future generations survive. I actually feel that what we do today to build these self-reliant regional economies will mean the survival or not of future generations. And we have to put all we have into doing that now. So altogether now 7 priorities for our state's regional economies are local food, renewable energy, industrial hemp, plant medicine, clothing and textiles, zero waste, and local tourism. And we have we've begun to organize in each of these areas and to develop projects in each area. We haven't done that yet. We're just beginning to get funding. We're an all volunteer organization right now. But these are our plans. We do have the local food area. We developed a grain coalition, the Pennsylvania Grain Coalition. So we're working to develop the supply chain from the heritage grain farmers to the millers to the bakers in Philadelphia. And the Pennsylvania Grain Coalition put together during the pandemic what they called a Pennsylvania pantry box that had flour, cooking oil, beans, seeds. We include in this group cornmeal, those kind of things, to promote the grain products of Pennsylvania. And we sold the boxes for $30, and then the $15 profit was used to pay for a box to give free to low-income communities. We also developed a guide to local food during the pandemic. That's on our website, altogetherNowPA.org. Most of our work right now is in the greater Philadelphia area. We're going to be spreading our work throughout the state, and I'm sure I'll come up to northeast eastern Pennsylvania to talk about All Together Now, and we might have a hub in East Stroudsburg at the university there. Actually, just having a meeting soon about that possibility. So our guide right now is mostly sources for Greater Philadelphia, but we want to grow that once we get some resources for staff. Renewable energy. We've actually been talking to Jack Barnett about the successful program that he spearheaded up your way. If we could do something similar in Philadelphia, but in general, what we want to do is help low-income communities get access to solar. Industrial hemp. We started a coalition here because of the recent 2 years ago lift of the ban. Hemp, as you know, was illegal for 80 years. And so we thought this is an industry that we could start working with from the get-go and keep out-of-state corporations from coming in and gobbling up all the goodies that should go to our farmers and our entrepreneurs. We're all standing in front of a hemp house. This hemp house on wheels is made from a hempcrete that uses the woody core of the hemp plant and mixed with lime, and it makes the most incredible building material that is resistant to mildew and rot and pests. It's a fire retardant, and it continually absorbs carbons, and it has an insulation factor that will reduce energy bills by at least a third, up to 60%, they say. So it's just incredible building material. And next week actually is Hempcrete Week. We have a series of workshops up this way. To tell you the truth, I should send somebody there. Maybe I'll send it to Olga and Jack, an announcement about Hempcrete, because we're having the workshops in East Stroudsburg at a farm there called the Hempstead, one of our members owns. So there's workshops on starting on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 10 to I think 4. We're going to have 3 workshops there. The first one is for architects and developers. The second one is for construction professionals. The third one is for farmers and the general public. And then the fourth one's going to be in Philly. But I'll get the information out to Olga that maybe can distribute it to the membership in case anyone's interested in seeing how this is made and how it's used. Plant medicine. In plant medicine, we're looking at CBD, medical marijuana, and traditional plant medicines. And our plans are to educate the public about using plant medicines as an alternative to pharmaceuticals. Again, trying to move money from the pharmaceutical companies to our local farmers and businesses, and to have a healthier life, really. Here's I brought the person on the left, Danilo Burgess, is a state representative from Philadelphia. And I brought him up to meet Ben Davies from Wild Fox Farm. And Ben grows hemp and makes CBD products. And so we were making this urban rural connection because Danilo wanted to make the connection for the grocery stores, the corner stores in his district to get good quality local CBD products. And here, these are Wild Fox Farms products. The one on the left, Farmer's Batch, 1,500 milligrams. That's what I use for sleeping. I think it works great. We have a Zero Waste Coalition. This meeting was at REMARK. It's a really great company that takes old bottles and reblows them into new objects, jars and vases and glasses and whatnot. One of their specialties is blowing champagne bottles from wedding celebrations into like a bowl or a plate that you want to keep as a keepsake and have engraved. And so we're looking at businesses that will either use discarded materials or that reduce packaging. So we're looking at a spent grain project to pick up all the spent grain from the breweries and take it out to farms for animal feed and compost. We're also looking at the possibility of a returnable metal, like almost like a mess kit for takeout food. That we want to get, we have a group of restaurants that are interested in this, that we would start a business reducing all that. It just blows my mind how much styrofoam, which is such a horrible material, is being used now for all the takeout in restaurants. Local tourism. How can we get Pennsylvanians, instead of Pennsylvanians going off to New York or Paris or London on vacation, why not go to the small towns and rural areas of our own state and spend our dollars in these small towns that need the income? So we're going to be planning tours, and we'll be doing tours of our supply chains. First of all, for instance, we're going to do a CBD tour, we're going to do a hempcrete tour, and we're going to do a heritage grain tour. So people would go out to see how the grain is grown, how it's milled, and then how the final product is used to bake bread or pasta or brew beer. Local investment is another thing that we're introducing impact investors to our businesses that are building the local supply chains. And we're working on actually creating our own fund that people can contribute to our fund. And then we'll make loans to build our local self-reliance. So here's another project. I actually started this one 5 years ago, the Circle of Aunts and Uncles. And Jack mentioned this in the introduction. There's our website. So we make loans of up to $12,000 for 3 years at 3%. And we have a CDFI called the Enterprise Center that handles the money for us. They manage our fund and bank account and write the checks and all that. We have about 40 aunts and uncles. The initial contribution is $2,000 and then $1,000 annual dues. But another thing that makes us unusual is that we also contribute social capital. So each time we make a loan, here's a gathering where we're making a loan. We gather in people's homes and have dinner with wine and have a good time, and invite 2 entrepreneurs to join us for dinner. And then after dinner, they make a presentation and we vote on the loan. And then after the loan is made, then people sign up to be on a small circle for that particular entrepreneur. So this is a little pop shop, and the owner here, an Asian woman, Jeannie Chang. And this is her small circle group of advisors. So we meet with Jeannie. We find out what her needs are. Does she need help with marketing, with management, with bookkeeping? Does she have any business problems that she needs advisors to help her solve? And in that way, we have personal relationships with the entrepreneurs. Here's a Brazilian American brother and sister team that make clothes. They're called Lobo Ma, which means bad wolf in Portuguese. I'm picking out a jacket that I want to buy. And we have shopping nights. This was a shopping night at Lobo Ma. This is one of our aunts buying a coat. And so the first time we did this, we bought over $4,000 worth of clothes in a couple hours. We had wine to get people juiced up to buy things, but it was a big success. So we've made about 22 loans, I think maybe even more than that since this slide, to 18 entrepreneurs, totaling $175,000. So I like to say that we've made loans to the butcher, the baker, and the ice cream makers. So this is the butcher, a woman butcher on the left. Her company is Primal Supply Meats. And during the pandemic, her business exploded. She got so much business because, as I was mentioning, the corporate system broke down. You probably read the stories about how they were just slaughtering all the pigs and dumping in the garbage because they couldn't get them to market. But yet our local economy rose to the occasion, and Primal Supply buys only pastured meats from local farmers. So they're just going, so their business is going so well. This is the baker, Pete from Philly Bread, and he buys grains from the local farmers. So we feel that when we make these loans to these entrepreneurs, we're also helping the farmers because they buy from the farmers. So the butcher, the baker, and the ice cream maker, this is 𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐷 ice cream, and she buys from local dairies. Delicious ice cream, and we actually have loaned to three ice cream companies altogether. A coffee shop owner who buys fair trade coffee and tea, fair trade sugar, which is really unusual because it's so expensive, and she buys from local farmers for her sandwiches and salads. Just a beautiful person. Franny Lou's Porch is the name of her business. Another coffee shop, Thane Wright. This is the clothing business called Grand Boulevard, where she takes old T-shirts and then puts sayings on them. I have one that says "End mass incarceration," and then she also makes fashions by cutting up old clothes and reconfiguring them. So we feel that by working collaboratively toward our shared vision, that it brings us a collective joy to co-create the economy that we want to be a part of. So underlying all this I believe, is a revolution of values that Martin Luther King once said this back in the 60s, that we need to shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. And I feel like that's what's really called for now, to conquer materialism and greed. We're conditioned to feel full if we don't get the lowest price when we shop and the highest return when we invest, without regard to the consequences to workers, animals, communities, and our natural environment. So instead of this, we need to build a conscious economy where we make economic decisions not to maximize material wealth, but to maximize the health and well-being of our communities and our ecosystems. So we all belong to the vibrant community of life on Earth, and I've always felt that this knowing of our interconnection is really at the basis of this transformation that is called for now. Knowing that what happens to the animals and other people happens to us, that we're all connected and that we need to work together to save life on Earth. And when we feel that interconnectedness, we can feel the suffering of others, whether it's the pigs or people suffering from the catastrophic climate change. And if we're going to move from a life-destroying economy to a life-giving economy, that we need to lead with love. When I made that decision to share with my competitors, I was at first afraid. I was afraid that my sales would go down, my profits would go down. I could even go out of business. But then I realized that I didn't make that decision from my head. I didn't figure out in my head, hey, that's the right thing to do. I made the decision with my heart. It's because I love the pigs. I love the small farmers. I love nature. I love my community. And it was my love that overcame my fear of not having enough for myself. And I was able to share. And I feel that if we're going to save our world for future generations, it's going to be because we, as humans, have found our place in the community of life, in the web of life, no longer as exploiters, but as lovers of life. So that's the end of my presentation. I don't know how I guess I'll stop sharing. Is that the next thing to do, I think? There we go.
Thank you so much, Judy. That was so inspiring. I feel like it should be something that everyone listens to in a car on the long ride, just like a mantra that you keep repeating. And actually, Jack wanted to say something about a program that you inspired, the Circle of Aunts and Uncles. So Jack, I'm gonna add you to the stream.
Right. So Judy, we really thank you for your presentation, and it was really inspiring in so many different dimensions.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I personally have so many things that you're working on that you're just my hero at accomplishing what you've done so far.
Well,
so fortunately, we're going to do some more of that, follow in your footsteps. Our local Wayne Community Foundation is going to be our host financial entity for our Northeast Pennsylvania Circle of Aunts and Uncles. It was announced in a press release today.
Yay!
And it's a brand new micro revolving loan fund, where we exactly intend to follow in your footsteps and create a philanthropic community project where we can take donations, but it's not just of money, it's of time and energy you put into mentoring and helping new and existing businesses to expand here in Wayne County and neighboring areas.
Great. That's so good to hear.
Thank you so much. And we want to invite everyone to put questions into the chat. And this is, I should have said that earlier, but we do have a few more minutes to follow up. And this is an example of really building a regional resilient economy here in Northeast Pennsylvania. We're excited by so many things around renewable energy, zero waste. It just goes on and on. So there's local foods. You heard earlier, our food circle is really expanding. So we've got lots of things to go. And we're glad to be a part of All Together Now and to make this connection between rural Pennsylvania and urban Pennsylvania.
Terrific.
And one of the things that you mentioned that inspired me is the local tourism idea about, how do you sustain a place well enough, make it interesting enough and rich enough to entice people to come here and visit rather than go somewhere tropical. And I was reading that on your website, and I would love to hear more about that.
Right. Yeah, we haven't started that yet. We need to get funding, and we just got our first couple of grants, and I'm about to hire my first person. So I've been doing this for a year and a half now, acting as the executive director with a volunteer staff. So once we get once we get funding, you'll be seeing more of what we can do.
Definitely.
Yeah. The Poconos, of course, is a great area for tourism.
Yeah.
And we look forward to connecting and making sure. And in fact, I know folks at the Pocono Mountain Visitor Bureau would love to connect and make it a collaborative effort.
Yeah, great idea.
And while we're waiting for some questions, I just wanted to show Judy's website and the organization all together now. I love that name, by the way. It's just such a refreshing phrase in a time of political divisiveness. It's just, it feels, you know, like everyone is somebody you can talk to and work with and come to middle ground. So with the website, if you guys are interested in this organization and what it's going to offer when it receives funding and it grows, you can go on the All Together Now webpage and then scroll down and join the mailing list over here. And click subscribe. And here are the 6 points that Judy mentioned that are important to create regional economies. So let's see if we have
Haven't
any
seen
questions.
any comments yet in the
Well,
Or
if
questions?
there are no comments. Oh, Jocelyn is saying the best local itinerary, right? Am I pronouncing that
itinerary.
correct?
Yep.
Itinerary. It's a very difficult word for me, but she says that we could create this competition in the newsletter to promote local tourism, and I think that's a great idea. I'm definitely down for that. Judy, do you have any advice for people who are, for example, you know, a lot of folks, when they hear about local food or organic food that's sustainable, the first thing they say, you know, oh, it's overpriced. How do you create value in their eyes? Because, you know, for a person who's a tree hugger, the value is obvious. But how do you inspire other people to see what you see?
I mean, that's a $1 million question because you know, I do feel like we have been conditioned, as I said earlier, to feel like we're fools if we don't get the lowest price. So even people that are well-to-do feel that way. They feel like they have to argue about price, even if they can afford it. I have a farm friend that said, you know, this guy pulls into his farm. He had a sign up, you know, something like corn for like so much for $4 or whatever. And he said, well, how about $3? He's driving this BMW, you know, and it's just so maddening. But that's how we're conditioned to think that that's the thing to do. If you're a smart person, that you know, argue about price and get the lowest price you can. And it's just so unfair to farmers in particular. So, you know, that's why we need this revolution of values. And, you know, I want to, you know, who knows how to convince people about that. I think that, you know, people need to see the whole vision, you know, to understand that their well-being and their future depends on having sustainable, self-reliant economies to live in, and that we can't build those if it's a race to the bottom, you know, with prices, that we need to be able to pay, be willing to pay farmers what it really costs, you know, to grow food and to have a living return, you know, for that farmer. And same with investments. You know, I started talking about getting a living return. You know, when you invest in your own community, when you invest money in your own community, you not only get a modest financial return, but you get the living return of living in a more prosperous, happy, sustainable, resilient community. And so I think it's, you know, it's really about getting people to feel their, you know, the foundational interconnection of life. And, you know, it's how we do that. I'm not really sure yet. I want to have more events that bring together urban and rural peoples, because I think that there's more money overall in urban areas. There's more spending money, and people should be willing to spend money, for food and for tourism and so on into the rural areas. And I think it's a matter of of really feeling the sense of all together now. That and that our lives do depend on this. Our lives do depend on developing local self-reliance. And I think that this is the time, if there ever was a time, when we can begin to change minds, and move towards, the spiritual foundation of life, that we're all interconnected spiritually, and we're all interconnected, environmentally, and we're connected economically, and that economic connection should mirror the spiritual connection and the environmental connection of reciprocity and trust, and love. So it is the biggest issue. If we can tackle that one, if we can tackle the one that makes people feel their connection, then everything else will just happen on its own. And so that's if you can figure that out, let me know.
All right, I'll tell you.
So let me put in one plug here, because I do have another event that I want to articulate. Judy mentioned in passing the Clean Energy Cooperative, which was a 𝐀𝐧𝐬𝐧𝐮 project in 2014 and was spun off from 𝐀𝐧𝐬𝐧 and is now a separate legal entity, of which is a local investment in renewable energy projects. Yeah. And we're proud to announce that our next energy project is going to be on the Stourbridge Elementary School here in downtown Honesdale. And I am picking up the building permit tomorrow. So we've got forward progress on that solar system. It'll be about a 33 kilowatt system on a county-owned building. So our county is the host and off-taker. And we are looking forward to celebrating this solar system on October 20th with another virtual meeting of our Clean Energy Co-op annual membership meeting. So please look forward to that announcement coming up soon.
That's fantastic news. I want to model that in Philadelphia, so we can we'll trade. You get the aunts and uncles, and I get the clean energy.
I like it. Great idea.
I love that. Actually, Jenna, she posted just a comment. It's not a question, but I love that because it's, taking the whole idea of a couple and, marrying a person to their community. And I love that metaphor, a community that shares with each other stays together. And that's true. And I think, Judy, you're so right in saying, just creating events where people can get together and just talk, eat food, bid on clothing, whatever. It makes people feel like they have a lot in common. And I think that builds the community. Yeah.
I used to say that at the White Dog that I use good food to lure innocent customers into social activism.
Exactly.
It's nothing like sharing a meal.
Right.
Ann King Foster, she says that Hillburn cottage electricity comes from 100% renewable energy. Is that a local building or community? Does anyone know?
I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, well, I'm so happy about that, and that sounds amazing. I'm hoping that's going to be the future of NEPA, Northeast Pennsylvania, and then Hope, Pennsylvania, and then, the whole world.
Okay. Well, let's wrap it up. Thank you, Judy, again for everything. We love what you're doing. We love the inspiration. And we look forward to seeing you in person a little further north in the near future once the pandemic is able to disperse enough to allow us to do more social things in person.
I look forward to that.
Thank you, Judy, so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm just gonna say a few words. Firstly, just we saw the website all together now. pa.org. It's a great website. It's just the beginning. So, if you're interested to see where it's going to go, you could definitely sign up to the newsletter. Also, I just as a last few words, it's this whole presentation, it feels like home, and I'm sure that everyone who is watching this and watched this felt that warm little feeling inside their hearts, because we all have that. We all want community. We all want to share things. We want to share experiences. We want to share our love, sometimes our bad mood, whatever it is. Sharing is something that humans have in common. So I really hope that this inspires people to make little changes in what they purchase, where they purchase it from, and just the choices in their life, to think about it, not just the immediate cause and effect, but what's going to happen later on, in a couple of years. How is this choice going to affect the whole system? Also, I want to thank the sponsors. I'm going to get them up again because it's just...
While you're doing that, I also want to put another plug in for the Cooperage Project, our host, who has changed their mission in response to the pandemic to really focus on feeding our local community. And one of the parts of that has included a creation of a list of local farms that are selling food, whether it's a farm stand or wholesale sold products, and where you can buy it retail. The Cooperage Project is doing great work at supporting our local farmers and promoting their ability to produce food for us to eat and to share with the community.
Great. 1 second, Jack. Just give me 1 second. Keep talking. All right.
This is Kathy again.
Wait, Kathy.
You're not on mic, Cap. So again, thank you for all our sponsors. We originally envisioned having Judy on a big event here back in March and had to postpone it. And many of the sponsors that Olga's going to put up here in a sec were originally contributing to that event, and we ended up making this a free event for everyone to see. So we want to really appreciate our sponsors. Every one of them did not ask for their money back, even though they originally were going to get a much more substantial package of promotion for their business. So thank you all for contributing to Seeds and helping our community.
Yes, ditto. Thank you, Jack, for summing that up. I would get a little confused with my slides, but and if you guys are interested in the programming that we're going to offer now, tomorrow, till the end of the year, next year, and basically in the future, please sign up to our social media accounts. Our handle is Seeds of NIPA on Instagram and Facebook, and you can find us on YouTube by just searching Seeds of NIPA. And hopefully, this year, it's been a turbulent year. We experienced a lot, but we also learned a lot. So we're going to have more stuff to show you and share with you that you can watch from the comfort of your home. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for watching.
Good night.